Heather Smith and welcome to Cloud Stories, a podcast exploring the accounting community. Today I'm sharing with you a panel discussion on the topic, do accounting firms need an office anymore? This was held at the Accounting and Finance Show Hong Kong 2021. Our expert panellists were from Australia and the UK. We were all cloud first, though we had different sized teams, different setups, be it in-office, remote or hybrid models. Of course, COVID impacted these models somewhat. As always, I think it's useful for us to hear different insights and experiences to help us on our own journey. During the discussion, we discuss how to ensure clients are having an amazing experience no matter where we are working, the benefits of remote workforce versus the hybrid model versus the in-office model, issues related to where staff are working, the impact on culture, recruitment, even office dress code, and communication and working across different time zones. And I actually forgot to mention during the session something I've leaned into, which is called Asynchronous Communication, where the conversation is intermittent rather than a live, steady stream. The session initially starts with an introduction from Laura Pickard, Conference Manager at Terrapin, and she hands over to Moderator Kyelie Baxter, Founder, Managing Partner at IQ Accountants. Terrapin is a global events company promoting innovation and technology. I encourage you to Google them and register for any upcoming events they may be of interest to you. As many are currently running virtually, you've got the opportunity to attend their global events. I also encourage you to stay up to date with the account tech and modern practice news by signing up to my newsletter at heathersmithau.com.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the Digital Practice channel at day 2 of the Accounting and Finance Show Hong Kong. This session is titled, Do Accounting Firms Need an Office Anymore? And it's being moderated by Kyelie Baxter, who is the Managing Partner at IQ Accountants. This panel is jam-packed, filled with amazing, talented, spectacular speakers. So I think it will be a very good one. And if you have any questions at all for our speakers, please feel free to pop them into the live discussion box on the right-hand side of your screen, as they will love to answer your questions. So without further ado, I will pass you over to Kyelie. Over to you.
Thanks, Laura. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kyelie Baxter, and thank you so much for joining us for what is sure to be a lively conversation this afternoon as we discuss the hot topic, do accounting firms need an office anymore? This is a very topical conversation piece right now, and I'd love everyone watching to help us out by taking part in the polls that Laura just mentioned. We'd really love your feedback, and I'll be sharing the results throughout the conversation today. So please take a look at them and have your say to contribute to the discussion. Another way that you can contribute to our discussion is to post any questions or comments in the chat, and I'll raise these as time allows. So let's welcome the panellists, starting with the lovely Heather Smith, who I have heard described as the hype girl for accounting, which I love. Thank you for joining us, Heather. Would you like to share a little bit about what you do and also answer the very big question, where are you joining us from today? Is it your office or somewhere else?
Thank you so much, Kyelie, for that lovely introduction. I am joining you today from my office. I'm Heather Smith. I chose accounting because I wanted to travel. I have a micro office that fits in my handbag, and my clients can be anywhere. I can be anywhere when I'm allowed to travel. And I do travel extensively while focusing very much on fix-ups, training and management accounting. And I have sort of 2 keywords that I use. I meet people in my coffice, which is my cafe office, and I go on extended workations. So I go on vacation, which is kind of work, but they're extended workations.
That sounds like a great life to me, and I'm totally going to coin those phrases from you. Hope you don't have the copyright. So thank you, Heather. And also joining us is the esteemed Will Farnell, who I only had the pleasure of meeting today. Thank you for joining us also. Please share a little bit about yourself and, very importantly, your current preference of work environment, home, office, or somewhere else.
Thanks, Kyelie. So good afternoon, everybody. My name is Will Farnell. I'm based in the UK, so I set up my accounting firm Farnell, Clarke in 2007. We were one of the first 100% cloud practices globally in 2009. So we've been using tech to run our business for a very long time. We're a team of about 60 people now, and right now I'm working at home, but a number of my team are back in the office, and we work a very hybrid approach. But really interested in hearing the conversation today. It's a really hot topic, so looking forward to sharing some of our experiences.
Yeah, thanks, Will. And last but certainly not least, we have the very inspiring Sarah Lawrance. Welcome, Sarah. So thrilled to have you join us today for this chat. Would you share a little bit about your firm and how you and your team work, please?
Thanks, Kyelie. So I'm Sarah Lawrance. I'm the founder and director at Hot Toast. Hot Toast has been going for just over 5 years now, and we focus on CFO services, predominantly from the creative industry, so a lot of production companies and agencies as well, because that's my background from industry. I am currently working from home, and there's a team of 8 of us, and we're a distributed team, which means that we operate from various places in Australia, from home as well, basically, or either their offices or co-sharing spaces in their areas. So, I'm really excited about the topic today. I think, like I said, it's really timely given what's been going on, and I'm looking forward to some of the insights from some of the other panellists.
So it seems like we have a really good cross match and everyone's working a little differently or has in the past. So let's get into the discussion. When we think of whether an accounting firm needs an office, and I think that's the operative word there, obviously we also need to consider what the alternative options are. Now, I just heard the three of you say a few different terms, so I just want to clarify that before we get the conversation started. We've got the physical traditional office, we've got a work from home model, and I guess a combination of the physical office and remote home workforce, which would be a hybrid model. Would that be fair to say they're the three real options? Yeah, everyone agrees? Great. So I'll start with you. You have a bricks and mortar office for your team, don't you? Or you have had at one stage. And I know that you've gone through a bit of a transition in recent times. What do you see as the big benefits when you consider working, inside the office versus working from home for yourself personally?
So for me personally, I think just the flexibility is kind of what we like, and we wanted to make that available to our team. So in 2019, early 2019, we moved to what we refer to as a results-orientated work environment, which is basically us saying to our team, look, it doesn't matter where you do the work as long as it's done to a high standard and we delight our clients. So we almost have this work from where you want, when you want, how you want, as long as the job gets done. And the interesting thing for us when we first did that is we'd invested very heavily in our office environment, and a lot of the team chose to continue to work in the office. So despite having the flexibility and the freedom to be able to work wherever they wanted, most of them came to the office. Now, I should caveat it, we have a very young team, so predominantly Gen Z millennials. So that kind of social interaction is probably more important to them than it would be to me as just a wannabe millennial rather than a real millennial. So I think that has a bearing. So it wouldn't be fair to say that's what everyone's going to experience, but certainly for our team, they wanted that social interaction, and we found when we had to send everybody home for COVID that actually when we asked the staff, they missed the social interaction. They wanted to be back in the office, but still have that freedom and flexibility to be able to say, you know what, I'm going to work from home today because I've got to take the dog to the vets or whatever it is that it might be.
And I think that's really interesting because that social interaction has come up so often, particularly as so many firms have had to work from home during this COVID situation and they had to pivot in that direction. I think the social interaction has probably been the most difficult barrier to overcome. What sort of processes or methods have you put in place to assist those staff that have chosen to work at home, or did you put in place during the restricted work from home times?
We've always used kind of messaging apps and things, so we make it easy for people to communicate. We used to do kind of quarterly face-to-face town hall meetings, and we moved those to weekly online Zoom. So every Friday morning we did a team update. I think every Friday afternoon there was a kind of social quiz, which replaced our I know during the prep session, the team told you that we have a pub in our office. So a big part of our social was on a Friday afternoon at 4:00. We'd open the bar and have a game of pool and everything else. So the quizzes kind of replaced the Friday afternoon pub social session.
So when you said you invested heavily in the office environment, wasn't that the pub?
It was one part. It was one part of the investment, Heather. Breakout spaces and everything else were another part of it. But yes, the pub was a significant part of it.
I just see this big P&L line, alcohol, you know. Look, Sarah, you already shared that you're running a distributed workforce, so I'm going to call it a hybrid option, but please correct me if I'm wrong. Can you expand on that a little? You know, how does it work exactly? What are the advantages do you see compared to, you know, the traditional office environment?
Yeah, so look, just to give you a bit of context, so I never wanted to have a bricks and mortar office. I knew that from day one. It was never in the game plan. I always wanted to have a lifestyle where I could pick whatever I was doing up and I could go and sit in Byron and work, or I could go and travel down south to my family and work. And I always had that in mind. I also started Hot Toast more as a consultant. I never actually had any intention of really growing it to a bigger firm. So a lot of the decisions that were made in those early days were quite selfish. It was all about what I was trying to get out of my life and the balance that I was trying to achieve. And then I just kept on having clients that wanted to keep working with me. And so then I made the decision to transition to grow the team from there. And what I found is because I didn't want to negotiate on how I worked, I wanted to attract people that wanted to work in the same way that I did. So what's happened in the last 5.5 years is that I've tended to pick up an amazing staff, predominantly a lot of women that are coming back off maternity leave, a lot of women that don't want to negotiate that work-life balance, that don't want to work full weeks, that don't want to work 9 to 5. And they're honestly the super source of Hot Toast. Like, they are so efficient. They are so amazing at what they do. You know, and they don't have that excess, you know, travel to and from a job that they would normally have, but they still feel like they're in an environment where they can grow and they can really push themselves while still being able to do kid drop off and pick up. But yeah, so for me, it was always that in mind. And I've been really lucky that because I've set the framework of that, that's the kind of people that I've attracted. So when COVID hit, it wasn't a huge disruption to that, because people came to the company wanting that out of their work-life balance. So it was a really smooth transition for us, and probably a lot easier than most other accountants. But look, from a positive, you know, what's the advantages of it? Honestly, you know, work-life balance, as long as you're really, you know, clear around, you know, the hard nose and making, you know, because I allow people to work at all different times, which means that, you know, you don't want people working all the time, but you need to put some rules in place around that so that doesn't happen. But, you know, work-life balance, you know, great work, great team, and, you know, and because that's what we all want out of life, you know, it just works for us.
Okay, I love that. And I think we are definitely seeing people coming into the market, starting firms, going down that track. So, Heather, I'll throw this one to you. When we're getting, you know, new or even existing firms choosing not to have an office or move away from that traditional bricks and mortar firm, what would you consider to be, you know, the number one or top couple of issues that they'd need to consider, and what can they do to overcome any barriers that might exist?
Great question, Kyelie. Thank you for that. I think it is probably setting up a technology framework and a communication framework, and understanding how they are going to be dealing and interacting with their clients, how that is going to happen. Is it going to happen virtually, or are they going to meet them in various places? And how they're going to communicate internally, but also externally, and setting up the boundaries for that.
Will, Sarah, do you agree with that as the number one issue, or do you have another one that you'd like to share? What do you guys weigh in on this one?
So I agree with what Heather said. I think the thing that is often overlooked is you have to think about what kind of firm are you. So if in Sarah's case, for example, she's taking on experienced people to work at a high level with her clients, the difference for us, probably 30% of our workforce are apprentices and trainees. And I'm not saying they can't work out of the office, but it's what they miss by not being in the office. So when I took on my first members of staff, we worked in an open plan office, and they heard me talk to clients on the phone. They heard me explain why people shouldn't buy a company car, for example. And that learning is so valuable, that kind of unstructured learning, just that hearsay. And I think that's the bit that we really struggle to replace if we don't have that environment where they just get to be part of conversations. And even now, in the way that our teams work, our apprentices kind of buddy up, and they kind of support each other. And that becomes much more difficult remotely. So it's maybe not a reason to say we've got to have an office, but it's certainly a really significant consideration for firms that are providing training opportunities for new accountants.
Look, and that's something I thought about as well, whether we think having an office or working solely or even partly in an office would be beneficial to certain roles within the firm. I guess my mindset went to professional staff versus admin staff, but even breaking that down right through to, junior accountants through to senior accountants and even to partners. Do you think there's a place where it becomes easier to run that work from home model or hybrid model depending on the role that people have within the firm?
I think it's the role, but I also think it's the clients. So all of our clients, 95% of Hot Toast clients are, digital production companies where they are actually quite younger. They are, in some respects, and they're really tech savvy. So the advantages of that is that I stole my model from a client. I looked at them and I went, this is great. This is exactly how I want to do it. And they're one of the biggest agencies in Australia, and they successfully run a distributed team around Australia and also around the world. And I actually went, this is fantastic and this is great. So I think for us, what's been really interesting is that we've attracted that kind of clientele as well. People that, for us, we're obviously 100% cloud-based. We sat down really early and said, this is what the technology workflow looks like. How are we going to, exactly what Heather said, how are we going to communicate with our clients? How are we going to make sure that they're feeling loved and nurtured and wrapped around just as much as if we were going and seeing them, in face-to-face meetings, monthly and quarterly. So we put a lot of time into that, and also around the communications around that. We do a lot of Looming and Zooming, and yes, in some cases that isn't the complete and absolute answer, but it does work with our clients. They do appreciate the face-to-face stuff, but we do the recordings every single couple of weeks. We touch base with them every single week. We're all on, we're on client Slack accounts, so we really try to make other clients feel like we're part of their team as well. And just take it that extra step, involve ourselves in their culture so that, so we've just done a few little other things that we've kind of tried to make sure that, it's a little bit easier in terms of communication, and they feel just as loved as if we were seeing them face to face.
Yeah, great.
Can I add to that? To what both Will and Sarah said, and I think Will does it, and it sounds like Sarah does it as well, is that in terms of understanding people needed the training or the accidental training, what I would do is every evening after doing client work, would create a video on it or create a blog post on it. And that's why I've got so much content out there in the community, because that's kind of how I would do it. And I know that Will's developed a book out of probably has a lot of that sort of information. And it was kind of like, because of the remote work, develop the content accidentally, and then that's actually a completely separate income stream to the business.
Yeah, we do exactly that too, Heather. We had a wiki. It was one of the first things we did. We have a wiki, and every process gets put on that wiki, and it gets done via Loom. So that, because I always say that if you've got a question to ask, somebody's already asked it before. So go bounce off the wiki first, then circle back if you've got questions after that. And, and it's a really good process for everyone to be in. And yeah, it's really worked. It's become like that really great database for people, and quite a collaborative approach to learning for the team.
So you've mentioned a few apps there that are very close to my heart. I love Loom. I think it's totally underrated for people that need training and for even training staff in the office. But arguably it could be used for any of the models, traditional bricks and mortar, hybrid, work from home. Sarah, I read an article about you recently where you were quoted as saying, I know, you ready? This is what you said.
You're quoted as saying, I deny it.
I
deny it.
It's a good quote. It said, you said, everything we do, from the adoption of technology to how we talk to clients to how we present ourselves, creates a particular perception. It is how we want to come across to you. So do you think having an office or not having an office creates or portrays a different culture or an image of the firm to clients?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I did say that, and it definitely came from my advertising days, because I was in ad agencies for so long, where everything was about the brand and making sure that is an extension of the brand. So, the finance, the production, everything was all of that in mind, like always pay attention to the details. So, yes. So sorry, what was the question again? I agree with myself.
You agree.
What was great. I agree.
Tick for that part. So the question is,
can I follow up on that?
Sure.
And without stepping into your moderator shoes, I actually had a question coming about culture, which is really closely linked to what has just been said. Culture is absolutely fundamentally important to this, and I think taking Sarah's point about the importance of brand, my personal view is that firms and any business has to go beyond the brand and create a personality. And there has to be a firm personality. And I think your question about an office and does an office shape the personality? Absolutely. And that's why we spent 6 figures UK sterling into our office, because it was a fundamental element of our personality as a business. And that combination of culture, brand and personality kind of blend and blur into one. I think particularly with multi-partner firms, you have what I kind of refer to as almost schizophrenic firms, because nobody really understands who they are. So what's the personality of the firm? Because it's a makeup of lots of different personalities. So how do we collectively say this is who we're going to be as a firm in terms of how we present ourselves, how we dress, how we communicate, how we talk, the tone of voice we use, the attitudes that we display. And all of this is so fundamental in terms of what we do. And fundamentally at the core of that, yes, if you have an office, it's got to live your personality. And if you don't have an office, then that's your personality. If that makes sense.
No, and I 100% does, Will. And you know what? I think it's really important for people on the other side of this too. Like, that is such great advice. And it's always something that I encourage people to do when they're starting out. Like, take that extra time to go, build those marketing personas. Who are the people that we're trying to attract? What does that look like? Pay attention to all those details when you're building out that business plan. Yes, you can finesse it and you can readdress it and you can kind of, but it's such good advice, Will. It's such good advice. And it's worthwhile for anyone on this call that's watching this to take the time to invest in doing that for your own firm.
It's the recruits, and it's a team as well as clients. Everyone focuses on marketing to clients, but nobody focuses on marketing to prospective team members. And that kind of personality piece is perhaps even more critical to the people, because you want the people that are going to live and breathe your values as the firm owner and so on.
So when we talk about the difference between what we do, and generally accounting firms know what they do, versus who we are, is it easier to know who we are if we're all in the office together? Silence from the panel. Hard question, Kyelie.
I think for me personally, I think it's much easier it's a real challenge to get people to understand your culture and learn to live and breathe it. You can do all the things that you get told you should do when you're recruiting to make sure people have the right attitude, the right approach. We recruit based on personality rather than technical ability, because you can teach technical ability, you can't teach personality. And if you get that recruitment bit right at the beginning, it makes it easier. I think it's much easier to make sure that the proposition is kind of almost rammed down the team's throat in a very polite and kind of well-intended way. I would struggle, I think, to do it completely remote. And I think that it's a very deliberate decision that firms make to be a distributed workforce. I know of some firms that are running at 80, 90 people, completely distributed. I take my hat off and I'm in awe of the ability for them to do that. Even with the 60 odd people we've got, I think as a completely distributed workforce, we would struggle. And the feedback we got from our team suggested that they struggled with that as well. But I think that's the deliberate bit, because as Sarah said, she successfully recruited the people that are able to work in that way. So that's a deliberate decision that's been taken, which is why it works. Whereas we never took that decision to do that, and therefore we probably haven't got the people to make that work.
Yeah, but I think that's the key, is when you're recruiting, like attracts like. People are looking for that flexibility. People are looking for that balance. So they're seeking out opportunities like that to work at Hot Toast. And I think that's probably why when people went into lockdown, they had that conflict and that friction going, because people never made that decision. We always wanted to be in an office. We wanted to have that kind of, in-house kind of communication and collaboration. I would say that we're all distributed, but what that's also meant is we've doubled down on communications. We do daily huddles in the morning. We're on the Zooms. We're always talking to each other. But also we do catch up when we're not in lockdown. We also do make sure that we're going to award ceremonies together, where, once a year we're dropping in and we're doing our team meetup, where we're talking about, what's the last, 6 months look like and what's the next 6 months looking forward. So we're still making sure that there are still those opportunities to have that face-to-face, but it's just not as frequent, the day-to-day.
Heather, you are becoming the go-to expert for all the cloud apps and all of that sort of thing. So what would you recommend to a firm that, has that office and is looking to explore going to the hybrid model that Will has?
So one of the things, and one of the things I did mention was in terms of the Coffis, which is the coffee shop.
Love this.
Is that I'm going to name a few tools, but you practice it, and you practice it by going down and spending an hour at the office and actually pretending or trying to actually work there and work out what's missing, what's causing friction, identify it, go back and refine that process. So I did that process for a number of years, and then spent more time away, and then spent more time away from my office until I've got everything that I could just open up anywhere and work. As we've mentioned before, Loom and Zoom are really good. Loom for recording, Zoom for these types of meetings. Having an email system that you can open up and access anywhere, whether that be Gmail or whether that be Microsoft Office, but that you not one that you actually have to download like crazy. Having a great document management solution that you can access anywhere. And there are a number of different calendar management tools that you can plug into the work. And of course, your accounting solution, you want that sort of that single ledger accounting solution that you can work with anywhere. And there's a number of solutions that plug in from there to analyze the information, etc. From a communication standpoint, a lot of people use Slack. It does my old head in, but I think maybe young people can use it. So I guess that's finding the solutions that work for you. Some people love Microsoft Teams. Some people like Slack, and maybe Will and Sarah, and even you, Kyelie, have other solutions that you're using in there.
We are Slack addicts, but we used it before Teams was in existence. So should I have the choice now?
Slack.
Yeah.
I'm Team Slack. I would just add though, the one thing to remember if you are going to go distributed is you've also got to be really careful around security. So, for us, we're on LastPass. We make sure that, our IT team is like always checking in. They went on, on onboarding, and then at certain times throughout the month that we're checking the machines and everything like that. So that's really important. I know a lot of other people use Practice Protect as well, which is a really good solution. And it's definitely something that you need to consider, and it's non-negotiable. It is 100% non-negotiable if you want to take on a distributed team model when you're looking at how that's going to roll out from like a nuts and bolts perspective.
Yep, that's awesome advice. We are Practice Protect over here too, and it works really well for us. Just want to do a quick poll update, guys. So one of our questions was, what is your current work status? And we've had 18 votes on that, which is really good. 11% are 100% in the office, 44% are 100% remote, and 44% is hybrid model. So really interesting. And what is your desired work status? This is really super interesting. 77% say hybrid model. So that's what you're working at the moment, is it, Will? Hybrid, like they can come into the office if they like?
Yeah, to a point. And I think this term hybrid is kind of a COVID spin-off term. And I think it's really important to distinguish between what we mean. So is it a dictated hybrid model in terms of you have to work 3 days in the office, and if you want to work 2 days at home, you can? Or is it you choose when, where, and how you want to work? So I think that it's almost kind of a damaging term, because people can say, oh yeah, look at us, we're running a hybrid model, aren't we really cool? When the reality is they've just told people that they want them in the office 3 days a week. Because they feel they can get away with that. So I think it's really important that it's got, again, like the point about the deliberate choice around running a distributed workforce. It's a deliberate decision that should be underpinned by the culture and what you're trying to achieve in your firm. If you want to move to something that isn't you've got to be in the office every day of the week. And so I think we'll always be badged as hybrid because we have an office and people don't have to work there. But actually, I don't want to be kind of pigeonholed with firms that have told their staff and dictated to their staff, you've got to spend 3 days in the office because we don't want you working at home 5 days a week. And I think there's a clear distinction there, or there should be.
Yeah, fair enough. So maybe, but I don't want to confuse things for the purpose of the discussion, maybe there's a fourth option. We'll call it the Will option.
That'll do, yeah.
You like that? So, look, I think the poll suggests that people are saying that they'd really like the option or the choice to come into the office or to work from home or somewhere else. Would it be fair to say that that means that some people are more suited to work from home? You know, do we think it could be a personality thing, generational thing, a role thing? You know, yeah. What are your thoughts about that?
I'll jump in and say there, I'm an introvert, and the energy I gain from working from home is massive. I work to my energy levels, and I think people potentially in COVID have discovered you can actually work to your energy levels, and I will start work at 4 a.m. in the morning, but I work when I want to work, and I'm as Will mentioned, results orientated work. I'm very much focused on quality, working to the time available. That suits my energy. And I find going to an office quite oppressive. I actually find it quite difficult to go into an office, and I have to prepare myself, even just to go into the elevator. But interesting on the other side, and I'll throw this in. I'm based here in Brisbane, Queensland, and I'm the one who organises all the accounting and bookkeeping get-togethers every month. And I've got enough energy to meet people once. That's it. My clients are attracted to me because I'm online. I've always said I'm online. I do occasionally meet them. If they've got a cute dog, I will go and say hello to them.
You know what? I'm going to jump in here. I 100% am very similar to that, Heather. Like, when I'm in an office, I am so exhausted by the end of the day, like, because I have just like, I'm too like, bing, 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 bing. Like, I much prefer, my personality is when I'm on, and then I can go away and I can go and reset. Like, when I'm in an office, an open plan office, it is exhausting for me, like on a day-to-day basis. When I'm on, I'd rather be on, go to a client meeting, turn up, hi everyone, do my thing, shower sparkles everywhere, and then walk on out and then go and reset. I think it is probably more suited to my personality as well to be in a distributed model.
Super interesting. I did a bit of prep work from some colleagues and asked them what their thoughts were. Most of them work in a traditional, everyone come to the office firm. And I asked them, why haven't you explored work from home? What happened during COVID last year? Why haven't you gone back to that even if your staff are asking for it? And I think a lot of the feedback I got came down to it just didn't work for us. There was a little bit of trust issue. We couldn't see what they were doing at all times. What are your thoughts on that? And how can people overcome that? Do we think it's fear of the unknown that's stopping these other options being available to staff?
I think that it's definitely fear, and you mentioned the T word, and I think that's fundamentally the crux of the problem. The fact that we're still, as a profession, very focused on monitoring inputs rather than monitoring outputs. So it's, has that person done their 7.5 hours of work? Let's check the timesheet. And we have to change our thinking, and we have to focus on the thing that the client really cares about, which is what we deliver as the output, and not how many hours we've put on their ledger to bill them. So I think that trust is fundamentally an issue, and that's a mindset for firm owners to overcome. That this whole idea of, if we treat people like adults, they'll act like adults. And if we treat them like children, then they'll probably act like children. So I think that is a fear. But I think what this last 18 months has shown us is that as accountants and as accounting firms, we have the ability to change if we want to. Because certainly in the UK, in the space of a week, everybody flicked a magic switch and was able to work remotely. That would have taken 5-10 years to get people to a mindset of being prepared to do that kind of stuff. And it happened overnight. And I think that's the really important thing we've got to take from this, that we can do anything we put our minds to. Sometimes we just need that really significant catalyst to make us do things that we're scared about. And I think if people look very closely, they'll find that broadly, they were able to deliver all the things that they used to deliver in the old world. And if it was out by 10%, then some focus on that 10% would get them back up to the levels that they used to deliver in the office without having to have everybody there if they choose to.
Yeah, excellent. Sorry, Sarah.
Sorry, I'd also say, like, just a little shout out, like, to the parents. Some parents don't want to work at home with the kids. It's really hard. Like, a lot of people prefer to go into an office and that's their break, and then they go and do their thing, and then they can go home, and then they can be with their family, and they on family time, and there's that distinct that home life and office life. So yeah, just a thought.
Yeah, and that's a good thought because that's a real thing. I was at home when my children were doing that homeschool thing last year, and it was a difficult time, right? Difficult time. So let's drill down into the three different models that we're really talking about and how they work from a practical basis. All three of you really have different work models. So what are the rules, especially for those of you with staff? Who provides what? What constraints do you have? Is it BYO device? How do you deal with workplace health and safety? Like, how does it practically work? Because I feel like these are some of the barriers that are stopping some firm owners from taking that leap of faith.
So I'll jump in and throw, because I'm small and everyone I deal with knows that they're going to be dealing with me online. I have extremely strict boundaries, very, very strict boundaries, and everything has to be channeled in through email, and all meetings have to be pre-scheduled. Because that enables me to block off large pieces of time where I can work and I can communicate with them via email, and if there's something urgent there, then I can get to it. I don't want people managing my time and managing me. I'm in charge of managing that with my strict boundaries. So I don't give out my mobile number to anyone, and everything is channeled in through email. So I try and do that with kindness and with attention, but that's how I can do it.
But the boundaries piece is really important. So because I offer the gals, the flexibility around how they work and when they work, there's times when I'll be working at night or whenever, because it suits me, and I'm really clear with everybody when they start. It's like the expectation is never for you to reply when you see that message come up. 100%. Only reply or get back to me when you're next working. And that's always the first conversation, one of the first conversations that I have with my team, because I don't want them to feel like, oh God, something's come through and Sarah's working. No. People are going to be working at all different times. You just get to it when you're working next.
Yeah, we were using Slack until a couple of months ago, and we've moved everybody to Teams. But we were using status in Slack. So the team used status to say, I'm working, I'm available, I'm in a meeting, I'm on vacation, I'm on whatever it was. And that meant that if the team were taking a call and wanted to see if somebody was available, they could see on Slack, and they'd know person's not available. So we take a message or whatever. So I think that's a key part. There's got to be a mechanism and probably a technology driven mechanism to make sure that everybody knows when people are on and when they're not. And I think that we did a lot of work around our team structure to make sure that there was always support for clients, because particularly when you're saying, look, when, how you want, we haven't really talked about clients here. So we talked about us as the firm, but what's the attitude of the client in terms of engaging with a firm that has an office or doesn't have an office, and how do they feel comfortable? And we did a lot of communication with our clients when we moved to our results oriented work environment. We told them why we were doing it, why we thought it was going to be good for them, and what we'd done in terms of structure to make sure that there was always going to be somebody there to pick stuff up, that it wasn't going to be a case of, the team are never there, I can never get hold of them, and so on, because that defeats the object. This is about making sure our team are on it, productive when they're on it, so that they can deliver a great experience for our clients.
Awesome lead into my next question. Thank you, Will. It's like we planned it. So from a client viewpoint, Sarah, how do you manage then with everybody working at their times that are suitable to them, being responsive to your clients?
Yeah, so really clear communication. So everybody in the team touches base with our clients at least once a week, and there's structure around what that looks like. So they know that there's a certain day or there is a certain time that's a block out that people can get in contact with the team, and that's non-negotiable. Any other time, they're more than welcome to send through queries, but they're not going to get picked up until the next time that they drop into that client work.
Love it. Okay, so we're talking clear communication, boundaries, a lot of what Heather said as well. So everyone's really on the same page here. What about from a client viewpoint, do we think that clients see that office as a physical representation of, maybe the strength and stability of a firm, like that the physical bricks and office, might add some sort of credibility? What are your thoughts there?
I think
go on, Heather.
I think some clients will be attracted to it. Like some clients want to go into a retail store and other clients and other people want to go online. I always was very clear this is going to be an online relationship. As I mentioned, unless you've got a cute dog or you're going to make me breakfast or something, it's an online relationship. And so I did go and visit people in person, but that was what they wanted. They came along for that relationship.
Yeah, no, I was going to say almost the same thing. It's about the kind of clients that you're engaging with. There will be, you take our example of the personality in the pub, there will be people out there that would never in a million years engage an accountant that has a pub in their office because they'll just think, I can't take them seriously or whatever. And that's absolutely fine because that's clearly not the kind of client we're looking for. So this piece around the firm personality is going to influence the kind of clients that you're going to attract, and they will engage with you because they like what you're doing and how you present yourself and how you communicate your messaging. And that's why it's so clear from a marketing point of view that we have to focus on making sure that we understand what our position is, our team do, so that prospective clients do as well.
So true, Will. I mean, I am sure there is many people that have passed up when they've found hot toast and gone, I am not working with hot toast. Who is that? But I've always said that if you don't get it, we don't really want to work with you. So
I love that, Sarah. I think an issue that happens universally, regardless of, what your model of office and workspace is work hours, right? And I know for me, when we were working from home last year, my whole office was working from home, not just the stuff that sometimes or usually do. I had a big problem. Some of my team were working far too much, and it's because they had access. So obviously during that time, clients were in distress, just like everybody's were. They were, communicating more and at odd hours because they were behaving in ways that they don't normally behave in. And I think that some of my staff were also behaving in ways that they don't normally behave in and overworking. I'd love to hear what your take is on this, because I was particularly worried from a mental health point of view, and that those staff were just going to crash and burn on me, and I wasn't able to really keep a physical eye on them, even though we could have Zoom calls and, see them in Slack and all that sort of thing. So from a team management point of view, do you think it's different when you compare the in-office environment where you can see everyone physically every day versus a different model?
I think everyone's going to have a different attitude and approach to this anyway. So even if our team come into the office but they take their laptop home, so the likelihood is they could still get home and open a laptop and log on and do some email while they're watching TV or whatever it is. So I think it's really difficult to control that. I mean, again, our structure has been built in such a way that we're running kind of micro teams. So we have a client manager looking after kind of three people. So it's down to those managers to really make sure that their team are getting the right balance. And it's really important that you ask your staff on a regular basis kind of how they're feeling. Again, we focus on net promoter score for our clients and things like that, but how often do we ask our team, how are we doing, and have you got the right work-life balance, and what can we do better? We know that our people are our biggest asset, so we have to make sure that we ask them regularly, how are you feeling, kind of what's going on, and what can we do better.
Yeah. So communication, that's what we're saying.
Yeah. And I think the messaging needs to come down from the top. We acknowledge it's okay if you're not feeling okay, and that messaging needs to come down from the top. there is a technology tool called Everperform that will go in and send them messages, and so they can rate how they're actually feeling at the moment, and you can react to that. And our professional associations, and there are other associations that have support, but even just encouraging them to say, okay, look, you've got a 7.6 hour day. Why don't you spend an hour of that on a support webinar and check in that way, etc. Because while we are accountants and bookkeepers, a lot of what's happened in the last 18 months has fallen very much on our shoulders to support our small businesses, but we might not have had that skill set to actually support it. So we really need to say, yes, there's an issue, but look for the pull in the professionals when we can, or when they're available to us. And our associations do. Many of the associations have some support there.
So I'm sure we've all been in the situation where we have caught something going wrong just because we've overheard a conversation or seen something happen in front of us. Do you think there's any more risk having staff not in the office, or is it just a matter of, again, strong communication, making sure we've got procedures in place? Does technology have a place in this space?
I'll jump in. So, look, for us, we just double down on communication. It's really hard, and we've had another girl start this week, and it was so funny watching her when we were talking her through this stuff. And I'm like, do you get it? And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, she doesn't get it. And I was like, okay, hon, I'll talk to you soon. And then I was just watching the clock going, okay, I'm just going to go check in her in half an hour. So you do sometimes miss those cues that you wouldn't usually see if you were sitting face to face with somebody, or they're sitting next to you. So we just have to double down on communication with what we do. We just have to make sure that we're checking in a lot more, especially when people are starting out, if they're a little bit less experienced. But yeah, for us, it's just strong communication.
Excellent. Anyone else want to add to that one? No?
Yeah, I think Sarah's right. It is about communication. I mean, I guess as well, when we've got 60 people, so that for me and my leadership team, we can't see what everybody's doing anyway, even if they are all sitting in the office. So I think it is about good structure, good process, good risk management, good quality control, all the things that we should just be good at because we're accountants. So making sure that those checks and balances are there, so that we minimize the risk of things going wrong, and that almost doesn't matter whether you're sitting in an office or you're a distributed workforce, I think. And so again, I think this kind of seems to be the theme, doesn't it, that everything we've said here is that either of these models can work. It's just we just have to think about what we need to do to make the model effective for us as a business, whatever model it is we choose to adopt.
Excellent. So I've just checked the Q&A. There are a couple of questions there. I think we've answered one of them, but I might just raise them again just to see if there's any further comments. One of the questions has actually come from someone on LinkedIn. They posted on one of your posts, Heather, and it came from Steve Roswald. I hope I've said his name correctly. And he asks, how does an office better serve accounting client firms? So this is a really interesting question because it might have to make your brain think the other way. But yeah, how does an office better serve accounting firm clients?
So are we talking about the client in terms of how the client's better served? I think is a thing now, isn't it? So
yeah, I think that's what he's asking.
Yeah, so I think that for us, we like to get our teams together. I think innovation happens when people are together. I think that kind of unintended training, and these are all the things that drive better results for clients, particularly the people we've got sitting here, and innovation. How do we continue to push the boundaries of what we do as a profession? And I certainly get the interaction from talking to my teams about what they're doing, what they're seeing, There's an argument that, yes, I started in 2007 and made some decisions about how we were going to run our firm. And I did that just me sitting in my garage or whatever it was. But as we've evolved, it's the engagement with the teams that drive where we're going as a business. And that's about benefiting clients. Everything that accounting firms do should be driven by what we deliver to our clients.
Well, that's what we're here for, right? To help people. So
yeah.
I love what you've said just there.
So I would just only add, we're really lucky at Hot Toast because we've been able to engage people that if we were just looking in the local area, we probably wouldn't be able to have that kind of level of access to talent. So for us, like in terms of an advisory and the offering that we give our clients, we've definitely got a higher level of expertise than, like I said, if it was just the whatever local couple of LGAs. But also what it's done is it's really pushed us, to kind of up our game at those kind of month-end quarterly meetings and kind of really focus on advisory through the lower levels of experience as well. So we do recorded looms every single month that, we probably wouldn't do if we were only doing the face-to-face with clients. Like we'll get the guys to just do like a 15-minute grab of like, hey, this is what's happening and this is what's going on. And if you need any more information, circle back and have a chat to us. So we've really trying to bolster that as well and kind of use that to our advantage. That probably wouldn't, maybe not happen if we were in a physical office potentially.
I just want to share those poll results again, update them a little. What is your desired work status? 5% have said 100% in the office and 16% 100% remote, with 77% saying an other hybrid model. So in that regard, I would suggest that it's far easier to recruit if you're offering a flexible work environment. Have you guys found that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Fantastic. Great. Move on, Kyelie.
Short answer is yes. I don't put firm around it. Let's move on.
I think it comes back to the point we made earlier. It's about being able to articulate a clear proposition to prospective employees, and I'm in the fortunate position I get to talk to lots of firm owners around the world, and everywhere I go virtually, people tell me the single biggest challenge is recruitment and retention of good people. So we have to focus on how do we make our offer more compelling than all of our competitors, because that's the only way we're going to get the best resource.
Are you recruiting outside of the UK, Will?
No. We're still everyone is an employee. We're not using offshoring or outsourcing. We're a training organisation, and we take young people and we turn them into accountants, and that's our model.
Well, sadly, our time is drawing to a close. We know that the traditional in-office model is tried and tested, and we know that it works because for a very long time, that's all the choice that we had and it's all we knew. But times have changed and technology has allowed firms opportunity to make and provide choices. So before we finish up, I'd like you all to answer with one word. Yes, no. Do accounting firms need an office? We'll start with you, Heather.
No.
Will?
No.
Sarah?
No.
Well, that's unanimous. The tribe has spoken.
What's your answer, Kyelie?
No. My answer's also no. And I have an office, so who knows what that's going to happen, but we run also a hybrid model. But it's unanimous, and I think that brings us almost to the end of our time available. Thank you, everyone, for joining us, and thank you so much, Sarah, Will, and Heather, for what has been an extremely relevant and interesting chat. I super appreciate everything that you guys have brought to the table today, and I'm sure everyone watching has something to take home or back to the office with them as well. I'll pass back over to you, Laura.
Hi, I hope you enjoyed listening to the discussion on Do Accounting Firms Need an Office Anymore, produced by the Accounting and Finance Show Hong Kong 2021. I'll post a link to the articles we collectively used as research or reference during the discussion on my blog at Heather Smith Small Business. I encourage you to connect with the panellists on LinkedIn. You've been listening to the Cloud Stories podcast. I encourage you again to subscribe and leave a 5-star review so other people can find this podcast. Stay up to date with the current curated content I'm sharing by signing up to the Account Tech newsletter, available at heathersmithau.com.